The doors hissed shut with a final guttural sigh, a sound that always seemed to swallow the last echoes of the city above, leaving only the deep, resonant thrum of the underground. It was 2:17 a.m. and the downtown express was, as usual, a skeletal beast of steel and flickering light, almost entirely empty. Just me, Liam, and a handful of other late-night ghosts scattered across the worn, faded seats. I clutched my backpack, the cheap canvas strap digging into my shoulder, feeling the pervasive chill of the subway tunnels seep into my bones despite the stale, recycled air that barely stirred. My phone was dead, a minor inconvenience that, in the deepening silence, suddenly felt like a gaping wound, a major vulnerability. The train lurched forward, a low mechanical growl vibrating through the floor, up my legs and into my chest. The fluorescent lights overhead, already sickly yellow, flickered violently, casting long dancing shadows that stretched and contorted with every sway of the carriage. That's when I saw him, or rather me, sitting 3 rows ahead by the window, perfectly still, staring out into the impenetrable blur of the tunnel. He had my jacket, the same faded denim, the same messy brown hair that always fell across my forehead, even the slight, almost imperceptible slump in my shoulders that I'd tried for years to correct. My heart didn't just hammer, it seized, a cold, metallic grip tightening around it. It wasn't a reflection. The window was a solid, inky black, reflecting nothing. He was undeniably real. And he was me. My name is Liam Miller, and for the past 3 years I've been a night shift programmer. My life is a carefully constructed loop of predictable routines. Lines of code, endless cups of lukewarm coffee, and this exact late-night subway ride home. The train, as it's known, was more than just transportation. It was my sanctuary, a liminal space between the digital chaos of work and the quiet, almost sterile solitude of my apartment. It was always reliable, always empty enough to feel like my own private carriage, a temporary escape from the demands of the waking world. I'd chosen this life, this precise, unchanging rhythm, for its quiet anonymity, its lack of surprises. No sudden changes, no unexpected encounters. Just the steady, predictable rhythm of the city breathing beneath the streets, and the train, a faithful metal serpent, carrying me through the dark, silent tunnels. It was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be normal. It was supposed to be mine. The train slowed, its metallic groan echoing off the tunnel walls, pulling into the next station. It was a desolate platform, bathed in the sickly, flickering yellow glow of old, dying lights, the kind that hummed with a forgotten energy. The doors opened with a pneumatic hiss, a sound like a giant exhaling, and a single figure stepped in. My breath hitched, caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. It was me again. This version wore a different shirt, a faded band tee I hadn't worn in years, a relic from a past life, but the face, the precise angle of his jaw, the slightly uneven way he walked, the familiar gesture as he adjusted his glasses, it was undeniably me. He walked past the first version of me, who remained motionless, a statue by the window, still staring out into the blackness. The new me settled into a seat near the opposite door, pulling out a book I recognized. One I'd read years ago, a worn copy of a sci-fi classic. My mind raced, a frantic hamster on a wheel, trying to rationalize. A bizarre coincidence? A cruel, elaborate prank? But the cold, creeping dread that ran down my spine felt far too visceral, too profound for a mere joke. This was something else entirely. Something wrong. I tried to look away, to force my gaze to the advertisements plastered on the walls, to pretend I hadn't seen anything, that my eyes were playing tricks in the dim, flickering light. But my eyes, betraying my will, kept darting back. The first me by the window hadn't moved an inch, a perfect, unsettling replica. The second me with the book turned a page with a familiar, almost identical flick of the wrist, a ghost of my own habit. I pulled out my dead phone again, its black screen a mocking void, desperate for a distraction, for any connection to the outside world, a lifeline to sanity. The train started again, the metallic shriek of wheels on rails piercing the silence, and the lights flickered more violently this time, a brief, terrifying plunge into absolute darkness before they sputtered back to life, though dimmer, more unstable. I noticed something else, a detail that tightened the knot of fear in my stomach. The digital display above the door, usually a beacon of information showing the next stop, was blank. Just a series of static lines like a broken television screen. And the air, already cold, seemed to drop a few more degrees, a palpable chill that seeped into my skin. My reflection in the darkened window showed a face pale with a fear I couldn't quite comprehend, a fear that was growing with every passing second. At the next stop, the train groaned to a halt, the doors opening with a reluctant sigh. Another me boarded. This one was subtly different, older, perhaps, with a faint, almost imperceptible scar above his left eyebrow that I didn't have, or at least I didn't think I had. But the same tired eyes, the same worn backpack slung over his shoulder, the same hesitant way he scanned the nearly empty car. He didn't look at anyone, didn't acknowledge the other versions of me, just walked to the far end of the car and leaned against the door, his gaze fixed on the grimy floor. 3 of me. 3 distinct versions, each subtly different, yet undeniably, terrifyingly me. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a prank. This was a rule. A rule I was somehow breaking just by being here, by witnessing this impossible tableau. A rule that was now manifesting itself in front of my terrified eyes, a silent, unfolding horror. The train was collecting me, or rather, collecting versions of me. But why? What was the purpose of this macabre collection? And what happened when it had enough? The questions echoed in the growing silence, each one more chilling than the last. A sudden, violent jolt threw me forward, slamming my knee against the seat in front of me. The lights went out completely, plunging the entire car into an absolute, suffocating darkness. A collective gasp, then a profound, terrifying silence. Only the rhythmic, metallic clatter of the train on the tracks remained, a sound that now felt less like movement and more like a predatory heartbeat, growing louder, more insistent. When the lights flickered back on, with a painful, blinding flash, the car was subtly, horrifyingly different. The seats were older, the fabric torn in places, revealing stained foam beneath. The windows were grimy, streaked with something dark and viscous that looked like dried blood or ancient grime. And the 3 versions of me were gone. Vanished. In their place sat 3 other passengers. A woman with a vacant, glassy stare, an old man muttering to himself in a language I didn't recognize, and a young kid, no older than 10, engrossed in a retro handheld game, its tiny screen glowing eerily in the dim light. They looked normal. Too normal. An unsettling, uncanny normalcy. Then I looked down at my hands. My own hands. They were trembling, visibly shaking. And on my left wrist, just above the eyebrow, a faint, thin scar. The scar the older version of me had. The twist hit me like a physical blow, a punch to the gut that stole my breath. The train wasn't just collecting versions of me. It was replacing them. And I was next. The realization was a cold, sharp blade twisting in my stomach. Panic clawed at my throat, a raw, desperate sound that I barely suppressed. I tried to stand, to move, to escape, but my legs felt heavy, impossibly weighted, rooted to the spot as if gravity itself had intensified. The air grew thick, pressing down on me, a suffocating blanket that made it hard to draw a full breath. The other passengers, the normal ones, seemed utterly oblivious, lost in their own strange, silent worlds. Were they also replacements? Were they waiting for their own original selves to be erased, to be absorbed into this monstrous system? The train picked up speed, the rhythmic hum growing into a deafening, guttural roar that vibrated through every fiber of my being. The static on the digital display above the door pulsed with a faint, sickly green light, and I could almost make out distorted letters, shifting, reforming, like a language trying to be born or unmade. My memories felt fluid. like water trying to hold its shape in a sieve, slipping through my grasp. Was I forgetting things? Was I becoming someone else, even as I sat here, desperately clinging to my own identity? The sense of no way out was absolute, a crushing weight that threatened to flatten me. Every breath was a struggle, every thought a battle against the encroaching void. The train screeched to a sudden, violent halt, not at a station, not even near one, but in the absolute, suffocating middle of the tunnel. The lights went out again, plunging us into an oppressive, impenetrable darkness that felt heavier than any I had ever known. A cold, metallic smell like old blood and ozone filled the air, stinging my nostrils. Then a voice, not from the speakers, not from any discernible source, but from everywhere at once, deep and resonant, vibrating through the very structure of the train car, through my bones. Synchronization complete. Identity transfer initiated. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs, a desperate rhythm in the silence. This was it, the core horror, the moment of confrontation. I had to choose. Fight or let myself be absorbed, replaced, erased. I closed my eyes, picturing my apartment, my life, the one I knew, the one I was. I wouldn't let it go. I wouldn't let me go. I opened my eyes, determination a cold, hard knot in my gut. I would find a way off this train. I would break its rules. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the heavy sensation in my limbs, the blurring edges of my vision, the dizzying disorientation that threatened to pull me back down. The emergency exit lever. I remembered seeing it near the doors, a small red handle, a beacon of impossible hope. I stumbled towards it, my hands outstretched, blindly fumbling in the absolute darkness. The train car swaying as if alive, a living, breathing entity trying to dislodge me. My fingers brushed against cold metal, then found the distinct shape of the lever. I gripped it, my knuckles white, and pulled with all my strength. With a deafening hiss of compressed air, the emergency door unlatched, not revealing the grimy, suffocating tunnel, but a blinding, incandescent white light. It was a stark, impossible contrast to the darkness I had just endured. I didn't hesitate. I threw myself out, a desperate leap of faith, the force of the train's movement sending me tumbling onto something soft, yet firm, something that cushioned my fall. The door slammed shut behind me with a final echoing clang, and the train, with its cargo of forgotten selves, its monstrous purpose fulfilled, roared away into the impenetrable darkness, leaving me alone. I lay there, gasping, my lungs burning, the white light slowly fading to reveal a subway platform, but not one I recognized. I pushed myself up, my body aching, every muscle screaming in protest, my mind a jumble of fragmented memories, like a shattered mosaic. The platform was pristine, impossibly clean, futuristic, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. No one else was there. Not a single soul. A sleek, digital map on the wall showed a subway line I'd never seen, with stations named not after streets or landmarks, but after abstract concepts, emotions, regret, nostalgia, ambition, despair. My own station, the one I had just arrived from, was simply labeled Origin. I touched my face, my fingers tracing the skin above my left eyebrow. The faint scar I'd seen on the older version of me, the one I'd felt on my own skin just moments ago, was gone. My backpack felt lighter, almost empty. My phone, still dead, was a different model, sleeker, unfamiliar. I looked down the tracks into the infinite, silent darkness where the train had vanished, its purpose fulfilled, its journey continuing. It had replaced me. Or had it simply chosen me? I was Liam Miller. I was sure of it. But a cold, creeping doubt, a parasitic seed of uncertainty, began to settle deep in my heart, taking root. Which Liam Miller? And where truly was the last stop? The question hung in the air, unanswered, echoing in the vast, empty silence of this impossible station.